This is Marshall Shannon with Ministry Design Concepts. This webinar is brought to you by Ministry Design Training, and I'm a pre-construction navigator. Today's topic is selecting the right architect and builder for your project. So let's start first off by reviewing. If you've watched some of our other webinars, we repeat this on each one so you can understand that in a normal, regular church construction project, you can break it down into 5 categories: preparation, planning, design, construction, and facility management. Today we're going to deal with preparation and planning, where you prepare to select your architect and builder, and then during the planning process we're going to take you through the process for selecting them and what that looks like. And then of course, once you've selected your architect, and depending upon which delivery system you're using, your builder, you start into the design phase. Right up front, so there's no misunderstanding, we believe at Ministry Design Concepts that proper planning, preparation, and processes prevents poor performance. To give you a chart to understand this, during the preparation and planning, you have control of all the decisions, control of your project, control of your money. You have control of whether to move forward or not, how you're going to do it, who's going to work with you. But once you start to make those decisions, you're going to come to a point near the time to start the design process, and the industry professionals are going to take with the decisions you made, and they're going to put them into action to design and build your building. When that happens, you're losing control of the project, control of your decisions, and you're losing control of your money, because you're going to contractually obligate yourself to make payments to the industry professionals as they perform their work for you. In the selection preparation, you need to make certain several things are in place. Number one, ministry evaluation. What I mean by that is to have a clear understanding of the condition of your flock, of your congregation. So you need to be pursuing the Lord in prayer, whether or not this is the right time or the right project or the right whatever, to understand God's mind on the matter. Then you need to properly evaluate whether your congregation is healthy or above healthy, being fit, where they're fit for carrying out the work of a building program. Secondly, you need to have a ministry master plan in place. That means that your whole design of how you do ministry in every place, you've got to be able to answer to them, very clearly articulate to the industry professionals exactly who are you, where are you in your ministry, and what are you called to do. Then how are you called to carry out that? How are you doing the Great Commission? And then to show them the game plan, so that they can have this information and understand who they're working for and working with. It will help them either buy into your mission or not, buy into your church family or not. You need to have created and trained your teams. In most cases, the building committee is going through the selection process for all the industry professionals. So you need to get them enlisted, involved on your committees, and train your teams. Initial feasibility studies. Feasibility means what's possible. What are you capable of? What's your capacity? What's the bandwidth? And you will look at the bandwidth of your money, your manpower, and your ministry space. So you can do some preliminary studies, and if I'm your pre-construction navigator, we'll go through these so that we're collecting information to be able to be at a running start when the architect is brought on board. Let me give you an illustration. If you're running a 4-man leg of a relay, the guy that you're going to hand the baton off to gets a running start so that he is up to full speed. So I'm suggesting that you get your church in a running start almost up to full speed, so that when you bring in the architect or the design team, whatever delivery system you select, that you're already in full motion and ahead of it, and you're not having to go from a dead stop. If you drop the baton, that team usually loses. they stop their momentum. You need to establish a preliminary budget, a preliminary programming exercise. You need to tell them how much you can spend and how you broke down what you can spend into the 6 categories or so that we'll cover in just a moment. And then your programming exercise is your attendance and age groups in every ministry space in your existing building, and tell them how you plan on using and who's going to use and what you're going to do it, and the whole programming explanation in the new building that you're going to build. You're going to need, to select a delivery system first, or you're going to select the industry professionals first. We did a webinar on this, on selecting your delivery system. Your delivery system is either design it, bid it out to GCs and build it, that's traditional, or design build where the architect and the builder and maybe others are on the same team and they design it and then it's built by the GC. Usually the GC employs the architect. Or you do construction management, which can be done like that both ways, with the architect and the construction manager under the same roof or separate, and then you can go through and the construction manager can take a design and build it. So with this, you've got to decide, because you're either going to pursue industry professionals, architects, and a builder based on the delivery system, then you go get and find people who provide that delivery system, or you're going to find out the people that you'd like to work with, and you're going to take whatever delivery system they provide for you. So churches do it different ways, and there's pluses and minuses to both, but that is something that you're going to have to decide. Continuing with your preparation, I provide you with a long-term vision for your campus that gives you 70-something questions broken into 5 or 6 categories, along with instructions as to what to do with it, so you can prepare a document and hopefully concisely articulate, clearly articulate to the design team what your vision is for the full development of your property. Where are you going with this? So you want to be able to share your vision so they can understand it, and they've got a design to it. Then you want to be able to tell them which mission critical. Are you needing educational space, and that's the most critical thing, so that's what you're looking at building, or perhaps worship and some fellowship space, or administration space, or recreation space, and on it can go for your ministry. But you've got to tell them what you're planning, what you think and understand are the needs of your ministry, what's mission critical. You want to provide them with as-built plans, blueprints, that have been adjusted when the buildings you now have were built, and the adjustments were made by the architect to show what changes were made to the original blueprints as the building was built. Next, you want to provide him with any previous master plans of your current site, so that he can see what had been thought through and planned out previously. You want to provide surveys, a boundary survey, or the outside boundaries of the building, and a topographical survey is a whole list of things that go into this, but you're going to show where every existing building is, utilities, driveways, parking, playgrounds, pavilions, shelters, maintenance buildings, storage units, big trees and clumps of forest. I mean, it's just a whole list of things. We provide you with a minimum topographical survey list, so you have to give some direction to the surveyor, and the architect will usually do this for you. But if you already have a recent one, then you want to give that to them. For instance, the topographical, the topo might be in 1 foot or 2 foot intervals, showing you for every foot the property elevates or declines, decreases, goes up and down. He's showing you, the surveyor will show you lines on it, and so you can know how the land goes up and down to put buildings on it. There are good reasons, economic reasons and ministry reasons for doing that wisely. Let me go through this so it perhaps will head off problems that you may have when it comes to dealing with the architect. And I say this from many years' experience in dealing with the process. Okay, in your project budget items, you don't just tell an architect, our budget is $3 million. He's going to think that's for your building. they can think that. I've seen them do that, thinking, oh, I thought you meant that. So you break it down for them into their design budget, how much you're going to spend on them and the other designers, on your site cost, your construction, the structure, the building you're building, the furniture, fixtures, equipment, and extras that you're going to have, your financing and pre-construction, and your contingency funds. And if you've bought any land and you haven't paid it off and it's a part of your budget, you want to give this to them in hard facts and make it clearly understood that they're designing the building to fit within this budget and hold them to it. Then there's preliminary affordability formula that I'd set up, and that's what you can borrow, what you can raise, what you have saved, and what you owe. And you come out with the total project budget amount that you are going to spend. Just because you can afford $6 million or $1 million or $20 million doesn't mean that God wants you to spend all of that, or that it's wise within your ministry game plan to invest your revenue in a building that way. You've got to put a cap on it and say, this is it. Hard for churches to do that for any number of reasons. The planning stage that we're going to move into is the selection criteria. First off, let me ask you, when you go to select one, if you'll follow these handful of steps, it will help you in selecting them. First off, are they a creative match? It seems to me, as I have observed and studied architects and what they design, that they naturally run home to mama in a certain way. I don't mean actually run home to mama, but some of them automatically design a traditional building, a contemporary building. They design a blend of those. They design a building that looks like a modern day public school here in the 21st century. Or they go very economical, and so they design a rectangle with a gable roof, and on you go, that if they naturally, and you see in their design, go to a particular style, then you've got to determine if their creative DNA matches your church's DNA. And if what you're wanting philosophically and creatively is something different than what they naturally comes out of them in their value system, in their taste, and they're bent toward usually designing something naturally in a certain way, and you don't want to work against that. You're trying to get the firm that is the best possible fit for you. The next thing is a quality design. Do they design buildings that will last? Are they easily maintained? Are the repairs going to be expensive? Will they design in a way that meets your budget and meets your needs? For instance, the illustration of, do you want a Chevrolet, a Buick, or a Cadillac? And you can use any other manufacturer you want, but that is usually easy for us to understand. Chevrolet it's a basic car, and you can get it all dressed up, but at its foundation, it's affordable, and it's every man's car. Then Buick was a step above that in quality. It's the medium. And then you've got the Cadillac, which is the top of the line with the best of everything in it. Well, as you look at this, you need to know which one you want, because do they design with life cycle in mind? And secondly, with their quality design, do they design with integrity? Talk to the people who have used them and built what was designed to see if their buildings leak, or if they were really extra expensive to keep clean, to maintain, to make repairs, to replace things that are there as they wear out. Did they make good choices in the specs they provide for you? Did they see to it that what you put in there was a good value? because sometimes we save a lot of money on the front end when we're designing it and building it, and it costs us a lot of money on the back end maintaining it. And so you want to make certain that the function that what you're going to do in the building, how you're going to function in the building, matches the form. So if you're running a school and you can afford block building for interior walls, that probably will last a lot longer than sheetrock or some other material. And without getting into an argument about that, my point is the form and the quality that they put into your building needs to let you function in it at full speed, whatever that is. And you have to give them direction for Chevy, Buick, Cadillac, or a blend of those. Life cycle. Let's talk about that for a moment inside of quality design. Think of endurance and economic. Economy and endurance. To give you some idea, if you take a 40-year life cycle of any building, commercial building built in the United States, the research that has been done on this shows that 70% of the cost of maintaining, insuring, replacing, repairing that building, 70% of the cost of that building over 40 years is for those things I just mentioned. You got to insure it, maintain it, clean it. You've got to insure. You've got to replace and repair things. The cost of borrowing the money to build it, your financing to build it, and the builder and architect and the construction process are the other part of 30%, the other part of the pie. So when you go into this, you really need to be thinking about the life cycle, life expectancy, the endurance, and the economy of the building you're building. And you've got to balance this out because you may not be able to afford a Cadillac in every single thing. So you have to choose wisely. What can you do that is Buick that's going to get the daylight speed out of it so it lasts a little longer and is easier to clean and maintain and so forth, and the economics of heating and cooling your building. All of this needs to be thought through. So think long term, not just short term, of getting into this building cheaply, unless you absolutely have to. So it's a thought. Here's another thing when you consider the criteria for selecting a design team, an architectural firm, and that is cost estimating. What is their cost estimate to bid accuracy? Okay. Their cost estimate versus the actual GC bids. Here's a thing that is argued in the industry, and that is if you have an architect design your church's building without either the proper estimating ability or a builder on board to estimate it, a guy who actually builds what's designed and knows exactly what it's cost because he's doing it today, it is estimated somewhere over 50% of the time when a church hires an architect without a builder involved, that the building comes back too expensive to build. It's over-designed and too expensive. It's got to be chopped down. And so to encourage you with this, if a builder, if an architect is saying, well, here's what my buildings cost, you're going to have to investigate in order to determine how well do they estimate. And they said this is what it's going to cost, and you open the bids, or it's put out to bid by the construction manager, is it close? And I have seen design build firms have an architect, and the design builder didn't estimate the cost, and it happened to design build. So it's not just the traditional architect designs that bid it out to 5 GCs and pick one. We all have problems with it. And so you need to be aware of that. It helps immensely if the architect can accurately estimate the true cost of what he's designing. It's a real blessing if you have that. The fourth one is design to build ratio. What is his success in what he designs as to what gets built? Do they design so that the GC, the general contractor, can easily build it? Is the original design built or greatly altered? And so in the design execution, is there a lot of accuracy with the design, or a lot of mistakes and conflicts, and where you've got aberrations in the plans or interferences in the plans where the plumbing and the electrical occupy the same cubic square inch in the building, and somebody's got to make a change, and that's a change order. So you want to talk to the people they're building for right now and they just finished building for, to see what their change order ratio was. I've been told by industry professionals that the day of opening bids, when $1 million commercial building, and that's the price that was given for it by the builder, that building ends up costing 10% more, 1.1 million. There are guys who keep up with that, but I want you to understand the impact of this, that it's important that you look at this. How well what gets built that they've designed? Here's why. They're paid, architects are paid to design. They're usually not paid to build. They may be doing construction administration where they're for a fee visiting the site every month during construction in order to make certain it's built during like it is designed. And by the way, you need to do that because accountability is very, very good, and the architect will give the builder that accountability. So, are they prompt? Do they meet design deadlines? Do they deliver on time? Because time equals ministry and momentum and really souls. The sooner you're in your building, I would argue, the sooner you can carry out the ministry you've planned to do in that building, and you're trying to reach people with the gospel. So timelines are decisive to your church's mission. And so you want to know, does this guy design on time, and does he get it done on time? Do they deliver on time? Do they present a fully complete stamped set of plans within the timeline? Are they prompt to respond to the builder when there are questions during the construction or during the bidding process? All those things you need to think through and know and ask to find out, investigate, interview the people who are using them and have just used them. Another criteria is, are they a team player? Are they compatible with your church, your staff, your committees, subcommittees, and work group? Do they seem to be a good fit? That means you need to get them interacting with all your players. Your general contractor that you're looking at using, maybe you're going to pre-select 3 or 4. Or you're doing construction managers already on board during this process, and you want to see the engineers, audiovisual lighting and acoustics, interior design, landscape engineer, and on you go, that would be a part of that. You want to ask, by the way, if they're not using their in-house engineers and they're subbing out the engineering for your building to an engineering firm, which is done all the time and it's fine, but how well do they get along with those engineers? What about the suppliers and the government authorities, the local building authorities, the government authorities? Do they have a good relationship with them? You get an architect who is hated by the local building authorities, that is probably not a good thing. And so you need to look at the personality, and I would go so far as to ask you to prayerfully consider doing something. If I'm navigating with you, I'll suggest it. And that is to put them through the architect that is going to be working directly with you. See, the architect who may be selling and meeting with you for the interview or the selection process may not be the architect who you're working with on a daily basis as you design the building. So have them take a disc profile to find out what their personality type is like. It will tell you if they're passive, or if they're dominant, or if they're influential, or if they're congenial, or if they are concise. It will help you understand who that architect is, that if you've done a good job of pastoring, you already know the shape or the disc profile of the people who are the key players in your church that are working with that architect, and you'll know how they're going to interlock. If I'm navigating with you, I'll help you set all this up. It makes a big difference when the architect fits in like a glove with all the other players so that he can collaborate and cooperate and organize and orchestrate the design process. Makes a big difference. Next is the network quality. Who does he work with? Do the other industry professionals that he works with, are they high quality? Are they Cadillac, Buick, or Chevrolet people? Do the industry professionals think the architect is competent? Do they like working with him? Is he compatible with the general contractor and the other players that you're wishing to use? But what is his network quality? If you find that the best of guys in the industry don't want to work with him, you might want to reconsider what selection you're about to make. Here's the 8th one. Staff assignment. Within their firm, which of their people will work on your project? Let me explain something to you. And that is, in an architectural firm of any size, you will have principals and you will have interns, associates. You would probably do well to get a principal who is your contact person and not an intern. See, an architect under state laws have to work for so long for someone else before they can go start their own firm. Just understand this, and you can dig into this if I'm helping you, but you want to know who it is that's actually going to be doing the design work, and if they're going to be dealing with you, but who actually does the design work and the engineering and the architecturals and the schematics and on and on and on. And you want to know, are you a priority in their list? If they've got 100 jobs on the board that they're currently designing, and you look at their workforce to work ratio, and it comes back that they're not going to give you the best of their firm, then you might want to reconsider getting involved in them, because you want to know the competency and the credentials of their staff. The architect selling their services may not be the one providing them. He is out selling and then giving direction and overseeing it, but other people are doing the work. And you would like to I think you should know that. Here's the next thing. Construction administration. What is their capacity and capability and availability and attentiveness in working with you and working as your representative and with your contact person and with the general contractor and the suppliers and the landscape and the interior designer, landscape engineer, or architect, and all the other players? What kind of relationship do they have during construction? They're coming on board once or twice a month. You're paying them to do this, a fee or a percentage, however they set it up in their fee structure, and their work schedule. And you want to find out how available are they to answer questions or come out and look at a problem. How attentive are they to it? Will the architect work well with your representative? One of your building committee people who is there, a project manager if you've hired one, to be there as the church's rep dealing with the builder and the architect and the other players, the subcontractors. And you need to know how well he deals with people during construction. Here's the last of these, and that's their fee structure and their services. What is their schedule of payment? How much are you going to pay them? When do they want payment? When they get the work done and it's presented to you, then you pay them? Do they charge expenses for travel and other expenses on top of their probably 6 to 8% fee for designing your building? Decide ahead of time, are you looking for the lowest price of commodity? Or are you looking for the best results or the best value for your money? So, how are you going to go about this? You need to fully understand what their fee structure is and the services and the payment schedule and the work schedule and what you're going to get when and what accountability is there. Some people have said they've used incentives to reward them when they get design done correctly and on time, but they've also had penalties if they did not get that done. And so as you look at these things, you've got to sort through it. And what I've given to you is kind of rubber meets the road as you begin looking at an architectural firm to consider these 10 sets of criteria, these 10 criteria as to how they work and how they perform. Then there's a time for you to investigate this, and you want to call their references at some point in your contact with them. And I've given you in the other webinar about how to engage and select all industry professionals, that you may want to look and investigate them on the internet. You email them, then you have a couple of phone calls, maybe a phone conference, then you set up an in-person interview, maybe a Skype before that, and you work down through. Then maybe you have a second and third interview. Well, at some point in the process, you're going to want to give some time to talk to the references, because you may eliminate an architect toward the front of this before you or he have much invested in it by calling their references and looking at their quality of work. Along with that, you want to look at their timeliness. How timely are they? Back to the promptness. Do they design within budget? Are they a problem solver or a problem causer, creator? So they're either going to cause it or solve it. They're either going to create problems, so they need to be a problem solver. But let me tell you, I've worked with architects where they had a design problem and the builder had to figure out how to make it work. The architect didn't do anything. Well, you want a team working together to solve it. So another part of selecting the builder is how well they solve problems too. The same type of things we're looking at for the architect in many ways goes with the builder, which we'll get to here in a moment. What about their character? Their integrity. Think of a man that is ethical and a man that is moral. An ethical person knows what's right and wrong. But I tell a little difference or contrast between one who is moral. He not only knows what's right and wrong, but he does what is right. Stays away from what is wrong. What about honesty? What about competent? Are they, let's use the Peter principle for a moment. The Peter principle is where a person in a company gets elevated, promoted one level beyond their competency level. Well, what if your project, either the size of it or the scope of it or the cost of it, something about it is of a point that is one level above the competency capabilities of the architectural firm? Just understand that that's something you've got to discern and discover and determine with them. What about their creativity? When you start calling their references and you go down through this list, and by the way, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just, or nor comprehensive. It's a list to get you started. Is their word their bond? Here's a point. You can catch this. I don't know if there's a way to write up a contract that can make a man be honorable. Contracts are interpreted, and they can be honored by the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law. So when you're dealing with them, is their word their bond? Is their character such that they're going to go the extra mile to make it right, and they want your ministry to move forward? So ask the references when you call them, do these guys as serious and bought into your project as much as you did? And so they need to be passionate and believe in what you're doing, instead of it just being mechanical and going through the design and providing design services for you. But I want them to have not just their head and their hands, I want them to have their heart in what you're doing as a mission, as a church. Here are some options for you. The first one is, when you go to select an architect, you could just pick a friend or a family member, church family, or that has a son or dad or a cousin, an uncle that is an architect, And you can say, well, they'll take care of us because they're connected to kind of like blood. So the architect may be your church member or a friend of one of your church members, or your personal friend or one of your friends in another church use this architect, but you know them. You have a relationship with this architect, and you can say, well, we're not going to interview anybody. We're going to use this firm. We're familiar with them. And sometimes you can have great results from that, particularly if you've seen the guy's work and you know him well enough that he meets the criteria. The second way that you can do it is churches will do in commercial, for-profit, other people and kinds of businesses in the marketplace will do this as well. But they'll do an interview process where an architect comes in one evening, Tuesday evening, 7:15. It's time for ABC Architectural Firm, and they come in with easels and tripods, and they're putting up pictures of site plans and buildings they've done, or maybe they're doing a PowerPoint, or they're doing handouts with brochures, and they're talking you through it. Maybe for 30 minutes they're doing a presentation, and 30 minutes you're answering questions. And that's fine. And I've chosen architects that way. And they're showing you a portfolio of work that they've done. The third way, and this probably would be preferable to the other two, but you'll have to decide for yourself, that I look at it that way, and that is the presentation process or option is where you select 3, 4, 5 architects who are willing to sit down with you, and you meet with them individually, and you give them the information that we've already talked about at the front end of this webinar. And they're going to go take 60 to 90 days or whatever timeline you have to give them, and they're going to come back with a floor plan and elevation and a site plan and so forth, and you're going to see how they creatively interpret what you believe is mission critical within your budget and all the programming, all the parameters and information you've provided for them. Now, you say, well, that's going to cost the architect money. It does, and I would tell you that if your project the scope of your project is large enough where they feel like they would invest themselves that way, then they'll go. If you've got a little bitty project, that you may have to use the first or second option here, a friend or the interview process. But if your project's large enough, or you can connect with some good guys, good architectural firms that you're comfortable with, and you feel like it'll be a fit, then provide them to this presentation process. All right, and so here's what you're doing. Here's the steps of the presentation process. You're going to provide the information. You're going to select 3 or more firms. You could select 2, but you want several here to participate. You're going to set the timeline for the proposals, maybe 60 to 120 days. You got to give them enough time to put this together. You're going to set presentation order and dates for their presentations. And then if you're going to have multiple rounds, you want to tell them, hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to select the best one, and we're going to grade them. Matter of fact, I'll provide for you a little format, Excel spreadsheet that gives you a bunch of different things to measure in choices, A, B, C, D, E, and you can go through when you grade these guys, you grade them with the number to see, as each one of your building committee or staff or whoever's interviewing at this presentation meeting, you grade them to help you remember everything. Then, of course, you should have someone maybe videotaping the presentation, or at least recording it and writing down key things so that you have the information. In doing this, you have several advantages to this. Number one, it provides interaction with them before you hire them. Next, it provides capabilities. You see what they're capable of doing within a timeline. And it provides design ideas. You may find a firm that's got a lot of neat ideas. It provides cost estimates, so you see what you're going to get for the money you're allocated. This is a test run. You're test running through this. You discover who the best fit for you are as you work with them. Let's say that you have that meeting and you've had 3 or 4 separate meetings with these architectural firms, giving them all the information they're asking for, and they're going to go back to the table and they're going to take something they've designed before they think will fit, or they may design it from scratch. Let me give you a little heads up. If you have an architect come visit your church on a weekend or two to see how you function, how you minister, the flavor, the congregation, they're looking for the code and the core of your church to understand the culture of your church so that they can design it better. You're looking for a guy who's really bought into it and really wants your business. They really ought to want to help further the cause of Christ for your ministry. That's my personal opinion. So you want to discover the best fit. You want to determine their work and fee schedule. So if you're working with them for 30, 60, 90, 120 days and then doing the presentation, you're kind of testing out here and seeing who you're working the best with. And this, one of the key advantages here is that you can save money, ministry, and momentum. Let me just give you this warning. If you pick the wrong architect, it can make the relationship and the process disastrous. It can make it very uncomfortable. It can hinder the whole process and the end product. And if you have a bad designer or the wrong designer, if he's a great designer but not the right fit in his creative DNA, you're going to end up with something that in one way or another, either it's not fully designed correctly, and the builder says, how does this fit together? And he has to go back and help him redesign it and fix the problems with it, and I've seen it happen. You don't want that. The presentation contact, they're going to provide a site plan, probably on a board, on a 3D presentation on a computer, floor plan, a narrative description of the building, dealing with the materials and the approach and the design concept and how it fits your church, how it fits your culture, your function, your ministry design. It describes that for you. They're going to give you elevation. That's the outside appearance of the building. And they're going to give you a budget, how it's broken down, and they see this happening. Because you've given them a budget, what are they giving you back? And then any documentation that you may have. And so you have this. Now, let me step from that over to the contractor selection. And again, this is not comprehensive, but it's a start. You ask them for a prospectus. And it's going to give you their staff and their biographies and their position, how long they've been with the company, what their experience is, and so forth. You're going to ask them about their finances, their financial strength, maybe how many jobs they currently have under construction, and their size and their value and the types of buildings they're doing. Then you look at their financial strength. Then you talk about the projects, the ones they've just finished, the ones they're currently doing, and the ones that are on the board that they're going to do, that are looking to come out of the ground next or within the next year. You're asking those questions because you want to know what their workload is and their capabilities, their bandwidth. What's their capacity? How many churches or companies or buildings can they build? How many projects can they take on at a time? You want to know that. Of course, you want to know, do any of these projects, are they built right? Are they good quality? And on and on and on. You want to look to make certain that they're not in litigation, arbitration, or mediation legally. So you want to find out where they are. And you're going to ask them references, because you're going to call them. And by the way, after you talk to the references they give you, dig in there to find other projects that aren't on their reference list and go talk to them. By the way, what they've done in the last, 1 to 3 years, 6 months to 3 years, is probably more current, telling you how they really are, particularly after October of 2008. What delivery method do they use? What is their fee structure? What are they charging you? Is it open book system or closed book, where you're never going to know who's paid what, how much they're really getting and earning, or is it open book? You want to know what their fee structure looks like. In a closed book system, they can tell you whatever they want to and show you whatever they want to, but they're very capable of a shell game of hiding their profit margin or their extra income in their bid that they give to you. Services. What are they offering to you? What are they doing? And so you want to look at the full slate of services that they're offering as a builder. And you need to determine how well they serve you. If you're partnering with them during design, how well do they do preliminary cost estimating on floor plans or conceptual or schematics or during the construction drawings? What are they bringing to the table in knowledge about church, in their networking? All the things, many of the things I've talked about with the architect, you would apply this to the capabilities of the builder. Even though they're not an architect, they're doing the building, but what about their character, capabilities? What about their competency? What about their network? What about the services they offer, the fees they charge, and on and on and on? That you would look at this. You're trying to tell, and depending on the delivery system you use, whether you're doing it by bidding, or they're a design builder, or they're a construction manager who is a licensed general contractor who's also licensed to provide construction management services. Regardless of that, you want to know how they perform in relation to the delivery method that you've chosen. Their performance. Do they build buildings that leak or have structural problems? Or they put such cheap stuff in it that you're replacing it every time you turn around? How well do they perform? Do you need to have them bonded? And if not, you need to bond the subs, depending on which delivery system you use? So you've got to consider this. When you have selected your architect and your builder, depending upon your delivery system, you step into the design stage, and you want to move ahead. Now, let me say something to you in closing as we talk about this, is that you need to know who owns the design. It's the architect. The church, or the owner, in this case the church, the ministry, is permitted to build those plans one time, but the design belongs with the creator, with the architect, and you need to understand that. Secondly, and this is just a summary here of some comments, look out for cookie cutter designs. Meaning, if you ask an architect to provide it, and you see a building that he's already designed it, maybe it's been built 3 times, that can be good or bad, depending upon a number of factors. But beware of just cookie cutter, where he's not worried about designing it to your ministry and your core and your code and your culture and to fulfill your mission. He's designing something he's already got done, and he doesn't have to put as much time in to get the engineering done. He's just adjusting what he's done previously, restamping it and selling it to you. So that may be fine, but just be aware of that. I hope this has been helpful to you. I'm Marshall Shannon. I'm a pre-construction navigator. Ministry Design Training provides these webinars for you, and the mother company is Ministry Design Concepts. Our office number and cell number and my email address is right here for you, and I trust the Lord will give you a successful project as you continue serving the Lord.